moisture, acting with the tide. Well, it was an oyster, and I shoved some hole inside. Your brain was tears from heaven, then I drink it from a cup. And if the day's an opportunity, bound to fuck it up. I'm known to the authorities, they are known to me. Don't let that tell ya if you wanna shoot the breeze. I'll show you round my neighborhood, we'll cruise all the apothecaries. And since you're leaving town tomorrow, you can be my main best piece. I promise I won't leave you, and I'll never tell a lie. Double cross my heart and stick a needle in my eye. I'll tell it to you straight, or maybe just a little bit. Oh, how this night could last for it.
Hi and welcome to Wednesday Winos. I'm Rebecca from Kangaroo Ridge Retreat and I'm here with
Hannah from What's River Brewing.
We're very excited today, but first of all, before we get started, I wanted to say thank you to Emily Day who joined us last week with the Froth magazine. That was very exciting that we got to talk about beer and publishing and talking all things about what's going on behind the scenes. So thank you so much. And today we've got Carolyn Mooney coming from Bird on a Wire. But if you've got any questions that you want to ask us or Carolyn Bird on the Wire, put them in the comments below so that, we can put them up on the screen. So, yes, Hannah, do you want to introduce who we got today?
Caroline from Bird on a Wire. I think we should let her introduce herself.
Yeah, okay, I'll bring her up. I'm going to take wait a minute. Hi.
Hello. Now we can't hear you.
Hang on, wait a minute. I'll unmute. Hello. Yeah, she should be there now. Hello.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, we're on.
Thanks so much for joining us. Really excited to have you tonight.
Oh, thanks for asking.
Yeah. So, did you want to just give us a little introduction to yourself? We just introduced you to Bird on a Wire, but yeah.
Well, my name's Caroline and I'm the winemaker for Bird on a Wire, and it's a business that initially I started up with my husband, and since 2010 I've sort of taken over and it's now become my baby. And it's been around for a little while, but it's a small business and small production, really finite resources, so single vineyard wines and limited production sort of based on what those single vineyards can do. And a labour of love, really.
So do you want to tell us what we're drinking tonight? I'll put it on the screen.
I totally want to tell you what we're drinking tonight. We're drinking I have been for a little while now tonight, the 2015 Bird on a Wire Syrah. It's a vineyard which is I love a lot, and it's a vineyard that I've worked with for many, many years now, beyond just Bird on a Wire. It comes from a previous job. And cracking year, 2015, lovely, lovely year. Right.
So,
cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for letting us taste this.
Yeah, thank you.
It smells big and bold.
So it's a vineyard that is, and that little big and bold thing is sort of a good comment. It's from a warmer part of the Yarra Valley, so it's right up the northern end.
I need to top up.
I'll just share.
Husbands, hey?
Hello.
Top up.
Cameos.
He's really shy.
This is the stuff.
It's delicious. Oh my goodness.
Shy that one.
It's great.
So it's a vineyard that's at the northern end of the Yarra Valley, and it's quite a warm site. And it's warm soil, so it's really lean soil, and it's sort of, if you imagine that you've got the Great Dividing Range at the north of the Yarra Valley, so kicking down the east coast and then kicking into the top of the Victoria. This vineyard is grown on one of the little spurs that comes off the Great Dividing Range, and it's really lean, sort of gravelly, lots of mudstone, perfect for Shiraz. So it is one of the really unique Shiraz sites in the Yarra Valley. I love it. I love it, love it, love it.
It's delicious. It's like big mouthfeel, lots of action on the back palate. I'm really bad with describing flavours, so I'm perhaps not suited to this role, but delicious.
You do well. I think for me, I get one of the hallmarks of the vineyard is kind of like a salty licorice with a little berry, with dark berries in the background. So it's almost like a salty licorice compote kind of thing, like cooked down. And then there's another thing that comes from this vineyard is a really sort of gravelly tannin. It's not silky tannin. It's got a real gravelly hot rock character to it. So, and that is something that this vineyard just does not escape year in, year out. Even, 2011 was quite a cool year, and even in that very cool year, you still had these little signatures through the wine that sort of stamp. And that's what's so beautiful about single vineyard, I think. You see exactly the same site expressing itself. And while you get variations in the season and the fruit development and the acid development and all that sort of stuff, you still get these really lovely signatures. So, yeah.
It is divine. I love it. I love that. I feel like now that you tell me what I am tasting, I really taste the gravel in a good gutsy kind of way. And that mouth feels great.
At what point is Syrah becoming a Shiraz? Because I guess it's warmer. That's a warmer site at Dixon's Creek.
Yeah.
But a lot of other vineyards are same grape variety, but it's Syrah. So
yeah. Well, I think it's a really good point. I think that this brand started back in 2008 was its first vintage, and back in 2008 there was a really fantastic energy and push from the Yarra Valley to try and distinguish the new wave of Shiraz. Not everything has to be like big South Australian style Shiraz. And you may have done tastings previously where people have sort of said there's this opportunity for us to capitalise on what we do, which is really elegant style Shiraz, but still with power, like what's that expression? The velvet. Iron fist in the velvet glove. And so there was that opportunity, and we were really having trouble, I think, in the Yarra Valley cutting through that classic Australian expectation of Shiraz. However, when you look back to France and their styles of Shiraz were far more about this savoury profile. So that's really it. It's not a different variety. It's really a stylistic statement, I think, when you call something Syrah. And maybe these days not so relevant, because I think the Australian market is ready to accept Shiraz from all over the place, and stylistically different Shiraz. But there's still, a little bit of resistance. But yeah, that's sort of the premise behind it. So yeah.
So you're talking, I felt like some love in your description of the vineyard. Do you have a favourite vineyard or a favourite site?
That's a tricky one. I do think that this is one of the most exceptional sites for Shiraz in Yarra Valley. It's a big statement, and I don't own the vineyard, but I've worked with it now since 2004, I think, was the first year that I worked with it. It is just such an exceptional site, and there's opportunity for other vineyards to go in on a very similar sort of site, profile, soil type aspect. But that doesn't happen, and I don't know why that doesn't. I wish I had more money so I could buy those bits of land and make that happen. But for me, this is just a really exceptional vineyard. But then the other thing that I do is I buy fruit from other vineyards. So I don't own any of my own vineyards. So the other place that I buy fruit from is up in the Yarra Valley, and it's a vineyard that I've been working with since 2004 also, when I was at Yearing Station. And it is one of the oldest plantings of Chardonnay in the Upper Yarra, or the block that I buy from that vineyard is one of the oldest plantings, and that is exceptional. Really, really exceptional. And I think when you really pinpoint exceptional vineyards, you just get to have a lot of fun with playing with beautiful fruit. It's a little bit of a luxury. It's like acting as a negociant, I suppose, to a certain degree, where you get to choose where you build your portfolio from. And then I've always wanted to make a Pinot Noir, but I've always wanted to also target really an exceptional vineyard. And in 2018, I purchased fruit from Tibooburra, which is just another incredible vineyard. And yeah, so I think for me, I like to establish long relationships with really good vineyards. I've got some really good relationships going on with some lovely vineyards, which is a real privilege. And so that's kind of how it happens. It's luckily it's being in the right place, right time, knowing the right people, and being good to them as well. I think, pay them properly.
Reciprocity works.
Yeah. So that's kind of the plan, really. It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What was it about 2015 that made it such an exceptional year?
Oh, it was just so even. You get years where you have, you might have a heat, flurry that just kind of fries everything, or you might get frosts in, or uneven ripening, or all that sort of stuff. 15 kind of just rode this wave that was so lovely and steady. And what happens in those really even years is you get a really lovely accumulation of sugars. So obviously grapes ripen, and as the sugar increases, you get a change in acidity in the fruit, and ultimately that decreases. In really hot years, that decreases quickly. So you get an imbalance between the fruit, the sweetness and the fruit flavour, and the acidity. But in an even year, that kind of all comes together, and you get this kind of sweet spot in the middle that happens exactly where you want it to. I mean, it's rarely perfect, but when you get close to that perfect, that's about as good as it gets for a winemaker. And then outside of that, as long as you choose to pick at the right time, as long as you choose to handle the fruit appropriately in the winery, then half your work's done really out in the vineyard. So 2015 made things really quite easy for winemaking, relatively speaking, I would say. There's always going to be things that are thrown up at you, but ultimately it's one of the easiest years I've ever worked to produce wines with a purity as well. And natural acidity and things like that. So, and I think that's one of the things for Bird on a Wire that, I rarely have to add acid. Like, it almost doesn't happen. It might be 2016 was quite a hot year. I think I added acid in 2016, but it was so your site and your soils and all that sort of stuff come together at that point. But yeah.
Got a comment? If you're interested, I'll throw it up. Saying, tasting great, Syrah. I love you, my son. It's one of Ben's favourites. It's delicious. So yeah, thank you for your good work.
Well, the Marsan comes from the same site. It's so the Syrah faces sort of east, sort of east-west, east-north, and then the Marsanne faces that vineyard, so it's a much more westerly facing vineyard, but the rows run east-west as well, and it's a beautiful vineyard. Like, that block of Marsanne is one of the epiphanies of the Yarra Valley, I reckon, because when that was planted, which would be nearly 18 years ago as well now, to plant Marsanne in the Yarra Valley on that site, on those soils, was, I don't know if it was instinct or really a great depth of knowledge. But, you know, one of the things about the Northern Rhone, and we were talking about the Rhone just beforehand, is you've got the Hill of Hermitage in the Rhone, and they have that broken down into different soil types and soil types that work really well for varieties like Marsanne and Shiraz. And you would, it's not the same, but the site that's been chosen for Marsanne next door to this Shiraz site in terms of soil type is pretty much, they've nailed it. So you want Marsanne soil to have a little bit more generosity to it, so it doesn't get so hot, so lean, so dry, whereas Shiraz can handle that. And you kind of want Marsanne to have a little bit more moisture available to it. Otherwise, the sugars race away before that acidity and flavours developed. So it's a really nice dynamic that's going on in that vineyard. And it very nearly got pulled out. And about 3 weeks before it was about to be pulled out, the guy who was managing it at the time said, "I remember you liked Marsanne, are you interested?" And so that's how that happened. So, yeah.
That's lucky.
So are there people that study those soil types in the Rhone and trying to find equivalent soil types here and other places in the New World?
I think not really. Well, I suppose there's geologists and soil scientists who, I think generally speaking, the world of soil science has been mapped out. But what we can do is take that knowledge and apply it here and get some indication of what might occur if we grow grapes on those soils. Certainly the Yarra Valley is a long way down the track into having a much greater knowledge of what does well where. And I think we really turned a corner probably, I'm going to say, you know, some people turned a corner back in the 70s. Other people turned a corner probably 20 years ago. And there's much more sensitivity about where we plant certain varieties and what soils we plant them on. And I think the fact that you can almost pick up any bottle of Yarra Valley wine and just see really good quality is an example of that.
I've got a question. So what's your opinion on Merlot in the Yarra Valley region?
Interesting, Simon, right? What is my opinion of Merlot in the Yarra Valley? Well, I think that, look, do you know what? I think Yarra Valley can grow as good a Merlot as anywhere in the world. That's what I think.
So
and
is the question, what's your opinion on Merlot, or?
In the Yarra Valley region, I think we can grow just as good a Merlot in the Yarra Valley as you can anywhere around the world. As long as you follow those rules of planting in the right place, on the right soils, with the right aspect, no problem.
I feel like there's heaps more behind that answer than I'm understanding.
What is it with Merlot? Is it a pain in the bum, or what is it?
It just kind of leaves me a little bit short. It's my husband's yelling from the kitchen. It just kind of, you know, I don't know that it gives you the full. It's for me, it's not the greatest variety in the world, but it may be that I just haven't tried the best version of it, So
Very diplomatic. I'm impressed.
What? Sorry, Simon.
We'll see. We might have a comment afterwards. Who knows?
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit more about Bird on a Wire? Where did the name come from? And how did that occur?
And is there a story behind kicking out the husband?
Oh, no, in the kitchen at the moment. No story kicking out the husband. But so Bird on a Wire, we started this together, and we spent hours and hours. Oh my God, trying to figure out what we were going to call this new tiny business that we were starting up 10 years ago, and it felt like an epic kind of commitment. And it sort of was born of Leonard Cohen and Bird on a Wire.
John Cash.
And we love Johnny Cash's version of Bird on a Wire. So we kind of went that way, and then I think ultimately he went on to do other things and winemaking jobs, and I moved more fully. I moved from Yearing Station into Bird on a Wire, and I suppose it continued on from there. So I've had, since I've been running Bird on a Wire, had about 5 different homes. And I think that's one of the things when you start up a tiny winemaking venture. I relied very heavily on the generosity. The Portés were fantastic. They let me make wine out of there for a while. Then I rented the old Warramate winery, and then I rented the Long Gully winery for quite a while. Yeah, for 5 years, and ran a contract winemaking business out of there as well, and still. I've been working with the Portés. So it's been a very rich kind of, 10 years plus of Bird on a Wire, because I think you just have to be, when you're running a small business in the wine industry, when the returns are really slow to come back to you, you just have to be adaptable. So I've done quite a bit of contract winemaking, and also in September last year I took on the role of winemaker for Zonzo Estate, and that has been a lot of fun. Yeah. And we've built a winery in the industrial estate in Lilydale, and we'll taste some of those wines next week hopefully. And it's been, I think you just have to be really agile, and it's like running a business during COVID. You've just got to be agile and adaptive.
Yeah.
Oh my God, like we weren't doing that in small business anyway.
Yeah. Find out how nimble we really are.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Flex up. Get those stretches happening.
How have you found not having a cellar door for Bird on a Wire? I mean, that was part of COVID-19, is like not having all cellar doors were closed. But how's that decision not to have one? Or
well, I think, if I'm honest, I would love to have a cellar door, and I've applied for rentals within Healesville quite a bit, and that would be going back, even 10 years ago. I think one of the, without getting too political, it's hard in the Yarra Valley for someone like me to take a lease on a main street property if I was going to have an urban cellar door. And one of the reasons is the liquor licensing delays, the fact that you need to rent the premises before you've got it up and running, the parking requirements, all the two worlds don't seem to work together to create, what I'm talking about, Hannah. Yes. They don't seem to work together to create the environment that someone like me, who's I don't employ anyone. It's it. So, however, I would have 6 or 7 years ago, put in a cellar door, and but just the regulations and the council requirements. I mean, the Shire of Yarra Ranges actually thinks that a winery is a vineyard as opposed to a winery being a manufacturing site. So, there's just all sorts of lack of detail, I think, between the two worlds, and it just makes it really hard to pull something like that together. I'd love to have a cellar door. So, yeah.
There's certainly a whole range of challenges in setting up a site, especially.
Yeah.
You've nailed the key challenges there.
Yeah.
There is a comment. I don't know if we can share it. It says, why don't you do a deal with Watts River and sell a door out of there?
Well, I don't know. The contract details are sticky.
We have Brett in the brewery, but you wouldn't be making wine there.
Yeah. It is just such a it's such a tricky issue of finding that harmony between business development, I think, in the Yarra Valley and people like me, people like both of you guys, and the amount of energy we're willing to put into something to drive a really ethical, sustainable business, and finding that connect through to the red tape people is really, really hard. So, yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah. McDonald's is going in. That's good.
So if you have the money, you can get anything through red tape. So
yeah.
We shouldn't get too political, I don't
Yeah.
know. I got handed a note by my husband who wanted me to mention that Watts River actually do contract brewing for that, helping startups in the brewing industry, as you do contract winemaking. So
yeah.
So do you have one of the really cool, I'll just change track so you know. You're involved with the Women in Wine Association, and what other, because both Hannah and I, we're both
women.
Funny that. But also in brewing, it's the same sort of thing that you witness, and that was what was exciting of having Emily last week with the editor of Froth magazine and discussing women in this industry. So did you want to tell a little bit about that association and how that came about, and who we should actually hit up and say, come join us on Wednesday Winos?
Well, we had, the years all merged together. But a few years ago, we had an opportunity to attend an event in London, which was a gathering of Australian women winemakers at the in London there, and do an amazing tasting with an amazing group of Australian women winemakers. And it was run by Australian Women of Wine. And so a group from the Yarra Valley, we sort of talked about it, and a group of us from the Yarra Valley went, and I think all up we were 7 in our group, but it was awesome. It was such a great show of strength. But I've got to say, when you walked around that room and looked at the wines on show made by Australian women or businesses run by Australian women, it was the most superb show of wines. And no one was trying to emulate anyone or be like someone or think if they created this style, they could take that slice of market. It just really felt like everyone was expressing themselves beautifully through individual wines. And it was just awesome. It was such a great event. So from the Yarra Valley, we had myself, Kate Goodman, Sandra DePuri, Sarah Crowe, Claire Halloran, Kathy Sutherland, Sarah Fagan, and was that it? I think that was. But we had a whole lot of fun, and but it was a very proud, for me, it was a proud moment of Australian wine, not just Yarra Valley, but Australian wine, in just going around that room and tasting very individual wines, very expressive wines, and being incredibly proud of the event that everyone was attending. And yeah, it was just terrific. So look, that's sort of how Yarra Valley Wine Women started. And I think, look, since then, one of the things that has become apparent is that all of us are juggling a lot. Like we are really juggling a lot, and we'd love to be doing a lot more within the Yarra Valley wine community. But I think we're just, at the moment, you know, it's really terribly time poor group of women who just, so I think the desire is for us to support younger women coming through the ranks within the wine industry and beyond. Like, ultimately, I would love to personally be, you know, supporting, you know, women who maybe don't get the opportunity to necessarily engage with this industry but have a desire to. And I think that would be a very common thread throughout all of us in the Yarra Valley, all of the women winemakers, that ultimately it's not about us, it's about what we can contribute back to the environment and hopefully provide other opportunities for young women within the industry. So, yeah.
Sounds like an amazing event.
Yeah, we were lucky.
Wines are incredible.
Is it opening up a little bit?
Yeah, so good.
I think I kept drinking mine.
So how can we get your wines?
Yes. Yeah.
So you can purchase this wine direct from my website. And I have a very heavy restaurant trade market. So at the moment, that's pretty slim.
No.
Yeah. Thirsty husband.
Always working, you know. So it's you know, so I've got to say, you know, distribution across Australia, it pretty much came to grinding halt. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's feeling that. But everyone is so welcome to purchase through my website and subscribe to the bevy, and there's discounts associated with that, and tastings and lots of lovely things, and hopefully an interesting newsletter. I
like your blog. Your blog. Wow, that's pretty cool. And the wine pairing movies, that's
well,
cool.
I also sponsor Melbourne Women of Film event, and like, for me it's important for the business to engage with you know, organisations that help others, I suppose. So yeah, so that's part of the creed.
Amazing. Lovely. Thank you so much for letting us taste this incredible wine. It's spectacular, and yeah, big fans of your others as well. So really excited to have you on.
Thanks very much. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah, thank you. So we usually end these Wednesday winos on a high note. And it starts because we don't really want to talk about the reason why we ended up having virtual tastings. But really what we do is we say one thing that we noticed in the past week that actually inspired us or made us happy, or go, oh, actually things are actually pretty good. I'm a very lucky person. So, yeah, what's one thing that you noticed, or no, it doesn't have to be one thing, but what's the thing that you noticed in the past that, yeah, you went, oh, it's pretty good. Things are pretty good.
COVID related, like within that time frame?
No, not at all.
Look, you know what? I had a little cry when that little boy Will was found up in the mountains.
Oh my God.
you know, I just thought that was awesome and a great sign of community coming together. And, you know, so sorry, that's really lovely, you know,
Yeah, it was
that and or,
That
but
was
also
incredible.
cooking dinner. So it's pretty good.
Finally, some good news in 2020 is Will being found.
I know. I think he might be a little pin-up boy for you know. That's good. That's good. But yeah, it was awesome today to hear that, I thought.
Yes, I woke up this morning worrying about him actually, so I was terribly pleased to see it come on my Twitter feed.
Yeah.
That he was found.
Yeah.
But a different thing was just the sunny days after frosty mornings was really pretty this week.
Yeah.
lovely. Yeah, they've been really stunning. I've been seeing them. We've got 3 degrees. We're a little bit warmer up here on the ridge, so it's been really lovely to have some sunshine after we had like a week long of rain. So yeah, my good thing was actually having you, Carolyn, on Birdonawirewine. I was so excited, and I when I rang you the first time to organise this session, I actually chickened out, and it didn't ring on my phone, but it rang on your phone, and you rang me back. So yeah, so when you dropped off the wine today, I was really excited about this. So I really appreciate you from joining us on our virtual tasting Wednesday winos. So yeah, thank you. That's my highlight of the week. So.
Absolute pleasure. It's a pleasure, and good on you for doing it. And you know, I think it's a really nice way to keep people involved and keep them feeling safe as well. You know, for those who can't get out in the community at the moment, it's great.
Yeah, and also, I guess, did you remember one random part of this connection is that you actually came to Kangaroo Ridge?
Yes, absolutely, honeymoon. That was our honeymoon.
So
Meant to be.
Before we went off to work in the Rhone Valley. So there you go.
lovely. That's a nice start. You know, seeing. Yeah, great, fantastic.
Yeah.
So. Thank you. So Hannah, do you want to talk about what's happening next week on Wednesday Winos?
I'm not sure. Did we lock it down? We'll announce it properly on Friday.
Properly on Friday, and it will come. So
we might be tasting a little bit of Quincy, but did we confirm that? I'm not sure.
I think we did. It's Quincy. We're doing Beer Week. Beer Week's on next week.
So yeah, What's River Brewing do a Quince beer every year in Quince season. So this year's Quincy is just about to launch, just been bottled.
So all right. So see you next Wednesday, and yeah, thank you. Have a lovely evening.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.